Hello and welcome to the demo video for the trial balance financial report. This is one of the select range spreadsheets, so you can actually choose which elements of the spreadsheet you have, which elements you wish to order. Now, normally they are determined by the different color tabs, and there are two here. There's a yellow one, the red one, but there are actually more selections that you can choose from in the spreadsheet, and those are on the custom report lists. So there's a light green, green, light blue, blue, dark blue, so on and so forth. So you can choose as many of these custom reports as you wish, as well as these two tabs. So if you want to, for example, buy two, then you just buy the first two, or one, you just buy the first one. And then these will become active for you. So yeah, we will get onto this tab shortly. The purpose behind the spreadsheet is for you to collect data from somewhere like Xero. This one's made to collect data from the trial balance in Xero, and you can just simply copy and paste it into the spreadsheet, and then you can perform various tasks and things with that data, or various reports. You can kind of customize the reports to do what you want to do, but it uses your data exported from your trial balance from Xero for the previous year and the current year, so that you can do comparisons. So a lot of the spreadsheet is actually just about collecting the data, and because we collect it from CSV, from Xero, there are a few things that you need to consider, and there's a few ways of doing it. Well, there's one way of doing it, but there's a few kind of options that you can do. So I will go through each of these tabs: the prior year tab, current year tab, and current year override, are all for collecting data from Xero. The budget and forecast are for you. If you want to use them, you can manually type in some figures to set a budget and a forecast. The reason why I've got two is because you might want to set a budget at the beginning of the year, and you may want to update the forecast as you go along. So the budget might stay fixed and the forecast may change. So you want two. As I said, you don't have to use both. You don't have to use either. You can use either or, both of them, or neither of them. The choice is yours. The custom reports list, we will get to that, but that's essentially to set up lists that you can then view on this custom report. So whatever you set up on the custom report list, you can view on the custom report. And the report by type will give you a breakdown by the type of accounts that you're entering. You'll see what that is when you have a look at your raw data. And then the performance tracker is another report that compares the different accounts to each other to show you how you scored one compared to another. So yeah, that's the introduction of the spreadsheet. We can move into having a look at all the individual tabs. So the next tab to take a look at is the first tab, I should say, is the intro and setup tab, which is the one that we're on. So let's take a look. There are only three things you need to fill in here. So on the intro and setup tab, you need to select the starting month of your financial year. Now the data I've got starts in April, so let's just do this one starting. In fact, let me just have a look and see. You'll get an export like this, which shows your trial balance at the end of a particular month. And if you scroll back, you can see that the data from this example, it all kind of starts there in April. So April will be the starting financial year. So you just need to make sure that what you select here does line up with the data that you've exported from Xero. So April being the beginning of the year, starting year, we put the current year in. It will ask you for the previous year's data for the prior year, but you put the current year in, and then you leave it blank for pounds if you're in Britain. Otherwise, you've got dollars, euros, and rand selections there if you wish. That's all you need to do from the intro and setup tab. So the next tab we move on to is the prior year tab. All right, this is what they call prior year. So this one, because we put in that we're doing from April 2021, this one will ask from April 2020, and it needs a column per month, and you've got your codes, your accounts, and your account type. So this is how it should export it from Xero. In fact, this is an example of that. So because this is the 31st of March, we need up to the end of March, 31st of March, but we're only starting in April. So I'm just going to delete these three so we don't get confused. So that would be the year. And then the last thing to do is, obviously, if we're ending at March, I've actually put March, I've put this March column in here. What you would probably do is you get the trial balance from the end of the first month of the new year, so that you'll have March as a column rather than a debit and a credit. But I've added March in here so that I've got all the way across to the 31st of March, end of that financial year. And I'm going to delete these two columns. So I'm left with that, the financial year account, code, accounts, account type, and then from 31st of March, which is the last month of the year, all the way through to April, and that is a 12-month period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that data like that. You see the positive values are actually entered as negatives, and negatives is positive, and all the rest of it. I'm going to scroll down. I'm not going to include the total column. I'm going to copy that data. I'm going to come to the spreadsheet. I'm going to right-click on the first code and paste values, not normal paste. That'll keep the formatting and it'll cause all sorts of grief. Do paste values. Paste values. Now we've got them in the right order as they were for the previous year, and that's job done. So make sure you've got all those months on. You may have to, as I said, go into the first month of the new year in order to be able to get the previous month's export. But make sure you've got all the months. Essentially, once you've got that data, even if you have to maybe type one column in manually or whatever you need to do, just make sure everything lines up. And once you've got that previous year's data, that's all you need into the spreadsheet, just like that. Now we can move over to the current year. All right, this is the current year data, and the current year is slightly different because here, instead of having just one column like we did in the previous year, we've got the code, account, type, debit, and credit. Assuming that every month you get this data, you are going to be receiving the data like that. So you're going to have your account, code, account type, debit, credit, and that month there is going to be from the last month. So that's the last month of last year. So essentially this data here is what we've got for April. So if you export a trial balance like that, then it's very straightforward because it'll tell you when the data is required. That will pop up when you get into May. So we're now actually in May 2021 as I'm recording this. So it's asking for April's data. So we can then just go to that trial balance, select the data that is given, not the totals, copy. That is for the 30th of April. So that date is relevant. That's the previous month. If we go across here and we can right click, paste values, and now we've got April in and we've got it in, and that's it, done. That's all we need to do. Now, there is one potential issue that may throw a spanner in the works, and that is what happens if you get to what happens if you're doing this, if you get a trial balance export and you don't have that full thing, that full set for April. So what happens if you don't do it one month and you do it the following month, and let's just say maybe you're stuck with that. So now you've got May, you've got April as one column, but you don't have this expanded view of April. Then what do you do? Well, what we've got then is we've got the current year override. So let's have a look at that. So the current year override is in case you've only got one column for the month and you can't expand it into that the separate columns as we've got in the current year. And if you're in the current year, what happens if you missed a month and you've got to go back and you've got to do it and you've only got one column? Well, then what you do is quite straightforward. Because we haven't put any data in here already, what we can do if we did have to put in one of the months is we could, let's just say we needed to get, for example, April's data there. Then what we could do is we could take the account. Where was it? We need to get the accounts. So we can take the accounts column, copy, paste values. Not normal paste, never pay normal paste, paste values. So now we've got the accounts in there. You can see there are two more accounts that we haven't got. It's telling us that there's new ones because there are some accounts on the previous that we've already entered that we don't have on this database. So other revenue is one of them and consulting is another one. So we can select those so we've got those accounts. Now we need to get April in to that one. But now the problem is they may not line up. We know we've added the last two on at the bottom. So in this case, we could actually just go back to that sheet and we could come and we could select April like that. We could copy and we could paste values under April, and then we've got April's data in there. But what happens if we've got these accounts, but let's just say for argument's sake, this new list that we've got, they don't line up with these ones. Now you've got to sit manually typing them in. No, you don't. What you could do is you could come here to this. You can get these accounts again that you've got here. You can copy them. And if you scroll across to the right-hand side, you'll see there's an extra section. If you paste values, always values into there, and then you come in here and you get these values and you copy those and you paste values into here, it'll put them in here in the right order. Now they all line up because they happen to line up, but if they didn't, these in the green header will now be in the correct order. You can see it adds a 0 to those other ones. Copy, and then we can go to the respective month, which would be April, and we can right click, we can say paste values. So that is a way of getting them, adding in just 1 month, 1 column per month. When you're finished, you can just come here and clear these ones out. But you don't need to use this page if you've got all of the ones in the current year. If you fill up all of these, if you miss one of these and you've got to go back and you don't have it, if you've got it as an expanded data, paste it in here, that's much easier. But if you don't have the expanded data and you need to override, you can use this page to do 1 month at a time. Just be careful to make sure that they do in fact line up with the correct values, but you basically paste them straight from the trial balance into the sheet. So that's the current year override. Then we can move on to the budget sheet, because once you've got all of these, you've got the prior year, and you've got all the current years, nothing here showing, asking for data. That means you've got all your data up to date. So the only things really now is, before we can look at the reports, is to put in budget figures or forecast if you actually want to use budget and forecast figures. Let's take a look at those. Right, here's the budget tab. Again, we've got the new down the side. What this does is it's a little bit complicated, but I didn't want to just put in the accounts, list all the accounts down here, and then they're all fixed in place, because then you're not able to sort the data and all the rest of it. But if you want to sort the data and you've got all of your accounts, then it needs to warn you if new accounts get added. Otherwise, if things shift here and then you've typed in values here and they don't line up. So I wanted to give you control over this. So essentially what this does is this column here, they'll turn green if there are new ones to be entered. Now there's 2 ways of entering accounts here. You can either click on each cell and select the respective account and just go through the list, and as you do so, those turn gray, which means you've now got them on the sheet. Alternatively, if you want a quicker way to do a bulk one, you can actually select all those green cells down to the bottom, right click, copy, go back up to the top again, right click and paste values, always paste values. So now you've pasted all those ones across, they all turn gray. So you've essentially put all these accounts now into your budget spreadsheet. And now you can put in values. Now everywhere else, the positive values are shown as a negative and negative as a positive because of the way they come out of the trial balance. But this is the other way around. So you enter them as positives or negatives. So your sales, for example, if you think you're going to do 10,000 sales, you can put 10,000 sales in April. So put that in as a positive, and then your purchases as a negative. So that's how you would enter the budget. The other difference between this tab and the other tabs is the other tabs show cumulative totals. So it'll grow from April to May to June is basically the new total at the end of that month. So the spreadsheet behind the scenes is separating those to find out what was actually done each month. Whereas this one, you put it in as each month. So if you do 5,000 sales in April, or you're planning on doing 5,000 in May, then you put it in like that. Whereas a trial balance would obviously go 5 and then 10, whereas you put in each individual month as you are budgeting. So the budget one's slightly different to the others, but again, you've got all your accounts, so you can put budgets against all of those things as you go along. So the next one is almost exactly the same, but it's just for forecast amounts. So let's have a look at that. So the forecast one, as per the budget, if you've jumped to this point of the video, have a look at the budget because it's exactly the same, but I'll go through quickly again. You can select these green cells here, which are telling you that there's some more accounts to take into consideration. You can copy those. You can paste values here. Just remember, if you do this once and you add more data, you may get that new popping up again because it might add new accounts into the bottom as they become available. You can just add them on. And then again, income is a positive value, outgoing is a negative value. You can just type in wherever. So audit and accountancy fees, what are you expecting in April? What are you expecting in May, June, July, so on and so forth. Remember, it's not like a trial balance, so they're not cumulative. You just put the individual total for each month in here as a forecast. So it's exactly the same as a budget. The two are the same. The only difference really is just depending on how you want to use them. One might be fixed, the other one may change. So once you've done that, you've got all your data that you've collected from zero for the previous year. You've got your data from this year. Yes, as you hit new months, you'll have to add new data in, but that's an ongoing thing. If you need to override, you've used that. You've got your budget. You've got your forecast. We can now move on to the reporting. So let's take a look at the custom report lists. All right, custom report lists. What this means is there's a custom report tab, which we can have a look at, which what it does is it shows you annual total year to date, annual average year to date average for your last year budget and so on. So the thing about this is you don't necessarily want to look per account. You can combine accounts here. So what this does is it lets you combine any accounts that you wish. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you wanted to do one with the sales, but you wanted to take out the purchases and you wanted to take out the advertising and marketing, for example, so that you could find a margin or whatever it might be. You can choose. This is the beauty of the spreadsheet. You can select which accounts you want to include in this report. And then what it'll do is it'll find out that the totals it shows in the report will include all of these. So if you select sales, for example, and purchases, and you want to take that out, then what you're essentially looking at here is your margin on your purchase prices, that kind of thing. So you can choose what you want to put in here, and then you can name the report. So let's just call this report margin, for example. It's totally up to you. And then you can move on to the next one. So then the next one, you can select different things. So for example, if we did maybe light, you can select one only if you want to. You can select light, power and heating and just call it energy. Whatever it is you want to do, you can select. I mean, you've got enough to select basically all of them. You can choose what you want to select for each of those reports, and then you can name those reports. And you can use as many as you want. You can order them. It goes on up to 7. You can order as many as you like. You can change these as well if you want to come in later on and go, actually, we want to add advertising onto here or marketing. You can come and add it on here. That's fine. They're adaptable. It's not set in stone. You just choose how many you want, and you can set them up here and name them. Because once you've done that, you get to use the custom report. So let's take a look at the custom report tab. This is the actual report. So down the left-hand side is something that you can save as a PDF, but at the moment it's not populated because you can select which of your custom reports you'd like to view. So you've made up margin, you've made up energy. These are the ones that you've predetermined on the custom report list. So if we select margin, for example, it then shows what's happening with those values, the margin values, and it gives you your income and expenses here, and it shows you exactly what's going on. Now, I've put some figures in there that probably aren't correct, so that's why the graphs are doing a bit crazy things. But that will show you your margin, or else you can come in here and you can do energy, and you can see the same thing as well with energy as to what's gone on with your energy, cumulative, and then the monthly totals, and then your expense column. So here you got last year budget, forecast. Now the budget and forecast are both 0. So if I haven't used the budget and the forecast, which some people don't, and that's fair enough, it can become a bit messy because you've got those lines on the graph. So if you want to remove them, you scroll across here, you can actually come and select what not to show. So if I choose not to show the budget and not to show the forecast, then those disappear and they disappear from the graphs. So it just cleans it up a bit nicely for you. I'll take those out again, but you can choose if you don't want to show something. All of these cells here are basically just showing you the accounts that have been included in this report, but that's based on your custom reports list, what you've selected there. So that's it. You can, once you've set up the different reports, you can just simply select which one you want to do in order to view it. So let's have a look at the report by type. The report by type is similar. It shows you again the year to date. It shows you your monthly changes and cumulative totals. The only difference with this one is when you select, you don't set this up. This is set up automatically to the different types that you have. So if you have a look at your raw data that we got from your trial balance, as you can see here, these are the account types. So they've already broken them into different types, and those are the ones that you can select. So you can select from those, and when you select one of them, whichever one it might be, this will then populate according to those numbers. Now the graph might look a bit funny because I've put in some fictitious numbers, but that will show up based on that particular cost, whichever one it is that you decide to pick. The other thing that you can do is, again, you can ignore any of these lines on the graph or the data. So if you want to remove, for example, the budget, or if you want to remove the forecast, you can do so. If you're not using it, feel free to take it out. Or if you're not using the previous year even, you can take that out. It's up to you. So again, that report is generated by just simply selecting it. And again, as per the other graphs, you can always save as a PDF to save this out as a PDF if you want to. There's one more graph. Let's take a look at that, the performance tracker. Right, the performance tracker is like the other ones. Again, you've got your PDF kind of thing that you can save as a PDF on the left-hand side, and here you've got some selections. The difference between this one is the other one just take the values and add them all together and show you the total graph, whereas what this one does is it's designed to compare two different accounts or even combinations of accounts to show you one as a percentage of the other. So let's just say, for argument's sake, and I don't know why someone would do this, but let's just say people wanted to see their sales as the primary value and the secondary value. I know one I've got this data entered is the light, power, and heating. Let's just say for some strange reason you wanted to see what is your percentage of your or energy. So we name the secondary value, we can name this energy, and we can name this sales. So what this is now showing is energy as a percentage of sales. Now you wouldn't necessarily want to see this, but you get the idea of what you can select what you want to be able to see there, and then it'll show on the graphs. So here you can see last year compared to budget, forecast, and current. And here you can see again last year, budget, forecast, and current. So you can see last year my energy was 4% of the sales. This year it's 1.1% of the sales. And here you can see that all the percents last month of all the different months, and then the current month as the data grows. So that's essentially showing a percentage of energy as a percentage of your energy as a percentage of sales. But I mean, imagine things like your cost of purchasing as a percentage of your sales, or your wages as a percentage of your turnover, or whatever the case might be. You can compare two different aspects. You can just select, I think it's up to, 10 different accounts to be used in the primary value and give it a name, and the secondary value, give it a name and select up to 10 there. And it'll include all of that in your report. So that's the performance tracker. So let's just go back to the beginning, and now I'll just do a very quick recap. So yeah, we set it up at the beginning, set it up the same period, starting date, month, and year as your trial balances, trial balances that you're exporting. Use the prior year to collect last year's data, current year or current year override to collect this year's data, whether you've got the expanded view or just one column. Use the budget and forecast to set your budgets and forecasts for each particular account over this year. Custom report lists, set your custom report, tell it what you want in each report. That's where you can view your custom report. That's where you can review your report by type, and that's where you can review your performance tracker, all on one spreadsheet. Then the next year, what you would do then is you can then start the next year, export your trial balance from the previous year and put that in and start again with a new spreadsheet for the new year. And I think that is all that there is to say. I hope that makes sense. If you still have any questions, if you're not sure, get hold of me, but I think that makes sense. And yeah, you can choose which of these categories, the yellow and then the red, which of those you want, as well as how many of these columns you want on your custom reports based on the color. So you can order as much or as little of the spreadsheet as you want. And yeah, I really hope that helps you, and I wish you all the best for your business. Thank you very much, and goodbye.